In 2021, JBS, a formidable company responsible for over 25% of meat supply across the US, Australia, Canada, and other countries, was hacked. They had a ransomware attack and they could not do anything about it. They had to pay $11 million in Bitcoin. It was so bad that the US government had to step in to begin to push cybersecurity measures across organizations like this. Because 100 years ago, 400 years ago, if you needed to get meat, you would go to a farm, go to a shop where there was no surface area for that supply chain to be attacked. But we're living in a time where water supply chains, food supply chains, non-digital supply chains are being hacked in very alarming rates. Although this organization increased their budget, likewise, like many other organizations, into the hundreds of millions of dollars, if you research with your device, you'd find out that these cyber attacks have not reduced. In fact, they've tripled over the last 3 years. And one of the reasons is because most organizations invest more finance in softwares, right, in frameworks, in digital security enterprise systems for the organization. And they also try to invest in training, cybersecurity simulations for their staff. But they have not focused, this is from my research, they've not focused well enough on human psychology and the human emotion aspect of this stuff, of people that have contact to systems that can be hacked. Security has evolved. One can agree that over the last 10 years, security has significantly evolved and to continue to evolve. And so as we move into the future, whether you're a business leader, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, if you are at the forefront of stewarding any human being, you must understand their brain, especially the amygdala. The amygdala is a small part of the brain that is responsible for threat detection. It has evolved over thousands of years to help man to detect threat. You see a lion, you run. You see a snake, you jump. Things like that. You see fire, oh, this is going to burn me. But you see one thing about the amygdala is that it's a database. It is a storage center that learns about threat over time. So as a child, you see a baby, the baby can attempt to touch a hot pot, touch something that can endanger them. The baby is learning. The amygdala is growing. But for most individuals, as pertaining security, they stop updating the amygdala database. They stop updating that part of the brain responsible for threat detection. So when they see a lion, they know to respond a certain way. But when they see something that seems like an anomaly, seems unusual, they might just say, well, there's this normalcy bias, which is another aspect of research, why people normalize things that they should escalate. So what I'm saying in essence is that as you build things, as you lead people, you have to create programs that help people in your organization, people around you, your family. Because if you have, you're successful and you're well-to-do, your family can be the gateway. A loved one can be the gateway to attacking what you have. I'm sharing this because malicious actors are increasing. And because of the advancement of technology, artificial intelligence, and several other forms of technology, we're going to see bad actors do terrible things across board. And so there are two major things I want you to do for yourself if you've never done before, and for your organization if you're in the position to influence such. The first thing is a program that improves the abilities of your amygdala, improves threat detection and threat response. A program that helps people to understand their emotions. Malicious actors most times will exploit fear, loneliness, boredomness, many forms of emotions. So there is a difference between a staff, right, knowing what to do and doing what they ought to do. Something bad can happen just because someone responsible for an aspect of security was depressed or was sad. So they being able to understand their emotion as they walk, name that emotion, and train their amygdala to still detect threats while they feel that way is going to be a plus for your organization. The next thing that is going to be very, very important for your organization or for your children or for whoever is around you, even for yourself, is unifying all fields of security. Research shows that one of the ways you can rewire your brain to become very, very sharp in detecting threats and having a security consciousness, a security framework, not necessarily that you're going to be a pessimist or you're going to be fearful, but you just have this ability to see threats miles away, is unifying all the nodes of security. What does that mean? you understand what food security is, how food security works, beyond having enough food in your house. What are the food supply chains in your city? Now, you see, you're not a food security expert. You might not be doing anything as regard food security, but that's going to begin to help your brain to pick threats in fields or in or non-digital surface areas that are not peculiar. They're not because most times malicious actors take routes that are not foreseen by organizations, routes that you might not be expecting. So when you train yourself to understand water security, environmental security, physical security, you're committed to not putting those forms of security in silos. You unite all of them. You become security conscious. You're not fear-mongering. You're not overly suspicious about something bad happening to you, but you are sharp. You pay attention to your environment. You pay attention to the food supply. You go to the grocery store or whatever, and you notice that, no, something is actually wrong with this. It actually improves your amygdala's ability to better respond to threats. So if you were to do an audit of yourself, do an audit maybe in your organization, and you create programs that helps to strengthen emotional resilience, and then you begin to champion unifying security. So if you are the MD in a bank, for example, the bankers, the accountants, whoever is in the bank understands that physical security is their responsibility. It's not just the responsibility of the person at the gate, the police or whatever. You'll find out that your organization will be impenetrable. And so that's what I want you to do. That's what I want you to do. Take your time to do. It's very important because we're building beautiful things. We're building amazing things, but they must be secure. We must promise security at the highest level to our generation, to our children, to our loved ones, and to our staff. Thank you.